Rain hammered the windshield of Rehan's aging Toyota Prius as it drifted through the midnight streets of Chicago. He had been driving for Uber for nearly 6 years, but tonight felt wrong in a way he couldn't quite explain. Like the city itself was whispering secrets through the hiss of rain on glass. His next pickup was listed simply as Alexandra, 302 E Willow Saint. There was no profile photo, no contact number, just a name and an address that triggered an uneasy memory of abandoned brownstones and police tape. He almost pressed cancel, but rent was due, and Uber's surge pricing was tempting. With a resigned sigh, he tapped accept and forced a grin at his own reflection in the rearview mirror, as if courage could be conjured that easily. He turned off the main road, the Prius splashing through potholes that swallowed the tires. Streetlights flickered overhead like dying stars. He slowed when the GPS chimed. He'd arrived. Through the misty glass, he spotted the building. An old 3-story brownstone with windows boarded up and a front door barely clinging to its hinges. He shifted into park, throat dry, and rolled down his window to the rain. "Hello? Alexandra?" he called into the dark. No answer. He was about to cancel when a soft knock behind him made his heart seize, not on the window, from inside the car. He whipped around and nearly choked on his own gasp. A woman sat in the back seat soaking wet, hair plastered to a face so pale it seemed sculpted from wax. He had locked the doors. How had she gotten in? Swallowing, he croaked, Alexandra?" She didn't answer, only dipped her head in a nod, strands of wet hair swaying like tendrils. He forced a smile. "Okay. Where to?" She didn't speak. Instead, she handed him a battered phone with a cracked screen glowing faintly. There was no address, just a dropped pin buried deep in Englewood, a neighborhood he and every other late-night driver avoided. Trying to keep his voice calm, he chuckled nervously. "Bit far tonight, huh?" Silence. Her gaze was pinned to him in the rear view, eyes darker than the storm outside. Unease prickled his scalp as he shifted into drive and pulled away from the curb. The city blurred past in streaks of rain and neon, but inside the car, time seemed to crawl. The air thickened with each block, the low hum of the tires merging with the drumming rain and something else. A murmur that might have been her whispering, lips moving with words he couldn't catch. He turned up the radio to drown it out, but found only static. She leaned forward close enough for him to smell wet earth and an iron tang that turned his stomach. Her voice came as a rasp, brittle as dead leaves. "Turn left here." He squinted through the rain. An alley barely wider than his car yawned between 2 condemned buildings. He hesitated. "There?" She only nodded. Tires crackled over broken glass as he eased into the alley, the walls pressing in like a throat ready to swallow him whole. "Are you sure this is—" He never finished. A shadow darted in front of the car, too fast to be real. He slammed the brakes, tires shrieking on the wet ground until the Prius skidded to a stop inches from a brick wall. His chest heaved. He turned to her for reassurance. But the back seat was empty. No Alexandra, no damp spot where she'd sat, no sign she'd ever been there at all. Panic strangled him. He double-checked the locks, still engaged. A sharp tap on the driver's window made him flinch so hard he bit his tongue. She was outside now, inches from the glass, her face stretched into a grin that split her lips unnaturally wide, but left her eyes dead. She mouthed the words, "Thank you." And then she was gone, swallowed by the downpour and the rotting alleyway. Rehan was frozen, pulse thrumming in his temples until he felt it, a cold, wet hand brushing the back of his neck. He screamed, a raw animal sound that the storm, eagerly devoured. Rehan's scream echoed inside the cramped Prius until it collapsed into ragged gasps. His eyes darted to the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Alexandra's drenched face peering back at him. But the back seat was empty, the air heavy with dampness and something fouler. A cloying stench like rotting flowers left too long, in stagnant water. He lunged for the door handle, but his hand trembled so badly he fumbled with the lock twice before yanking the door open and stumbling into the rain. Outside, the alley seemed to swallow sound. The distant city noise of horns and sirens died the deeper he stood there, rain drenching his hair and clothes until he felt like a ghost himself. He spun in frantic circles, scanning the alley mouth and the rows of sagging buildings. No Alexandra, no sign of life, only puddles reflecting cracked windows and broken dreams. Shivering, Rehan stumbled back to the car, yanked open the trunk, and dug out an old metal flashlight. The beam flickered weakly as he swept it across the walls and garbage-strewn pavement. Something moved behind a dumpster, too large to be a rat. He froze, heart thundering. The beam caught a glimpse of fabric, pale fingers clutching a brick wall before retreating into the shadows. "Hey!" he shouted, the word bouncing off wet bricks and dying behind him. No answer. Just the steady drum of rain, mocking him. He knew he should get back in the car, drive far away, call the police, report a trespasser, anything but stand here alone in a place that felt so wrong. But a whisper in his skull kept chanting, "Go look. You owe her that much." He didn't know why he felt that way. He didn't know why the word "owe" felt so heavy. Swallowing bile, he stepped deeper into the alley, flashlight trembling in his grip. He rounded the dumpster and nearly dropped the beam. A narrow, cracked door stood ajar at the base of a crumbling tenement, a smear of fresh, dark liquid trailing inside like a trail left by something wounded. Or something crawling. "Alexandra?" His voice barely carried. He told himself it was just a homeless squatter. Maybe she needed help. Maybe he'd hallucinated the ride, a trick of exhaustion and too many graveyard shifts. He pressed a hand to the door and it swung inward with a wet groan. Inside was darkness, thick and hungry. The flashlight flickered, catching glimpses of peeling wallpaper and the faint shape of a staircase leading up. Or down. He wasn't sure anymore. Each step he took inside sucked the warmth from his skin until his teeth chattered. Behind him, the door swung shut with a soft final click that echoed like a coffin lid closing. The whispering began almost immediately. First it was the drip of water through the ceiling, then the hum of the wind through broken panes. But soon it layered into voices, wet, raspy murmurs slithering along the floorboards. He forced the flashlight up, its beam dancing over empty doorways and blackened picture frames. Somewhere deeper inside, something moved, a soft dragging, like cloth over wood. He should have run. Instead, he whispered, "Alexandra, is that you?" A shape flickered at the end of the hall. A woman's silhouette, hair hanging in dripping clumps, her face turned away. He stepped closer, breathing, shallow. "I can help you. Just turn around." The figure didn't move at first. Then, with a sickening jerk, her head twisted far too much, vertebrae popping wetly until her chin nearly touched her spine. Her mouth tore open in a smile too wide, revealing teeth that seemed to pulse in the gloom. Rehan stumbled back, flashlight, clattering to the floor. In the brief burst of darkness before he scooped it up, he heard the skittering, hundreds of tiny claws racing across the ceiling and down the walls. The beam snapped back on just in time to catch a glimpse of her face inches away, eyes like oily pits, mouth whispering one word over and over, "Home, home, home." He bolted, slamming into walls and door frames as he fled. He didn't care if he made noise, didn't care about the blood on his elbows or the way the whispers mocked him with every breath. He burst through the front door into the rain, falling to his knees in the filthy water pooling in the alley. Behind him, the door clicked shut once more. Silent. Waiting. Rehan staggered to his feet and stumbled back to the Prius. He fumbled, the key into the ignition with trembling hands, the car coughing twice before the engine caught, tires squealing on wet asphalt. He tore out of the alley without looking back, heart pounding so hard it drowned out the wail of a siren somewhere far away. But in the rearview mirror, through the misted glass, he swore he saw her. A shape. In the back seat, hair plastered to her face, whispering that word again and again. Home. Rehan sat motionless behind the wheel, the city's heartbeat pulsing through the rain-smeared glass. But inside the car, it was tomb silent, except for the soft, damp whisper threading from the back seat, a voice he could no longer deny or outrun. He dared one last glance into the mirror, his reflection fractured by tears and fear. And there she was, Alexandra, her dead eyes locked on his, lips splitting into that impossible grin as she mouthed her command once more. "Take me home." And in that instant, Rehan knew that for some passengers, the ride never ends, and for some drivers, escape is never on the route. With trembling hands, he shifted into drive and surrendered himself to the darkness waiting just beyond the next turn.